spawning in the south, playing as the color blue, playing as the Malians, it is Orc and his teammate spawning in the northwest as the Delhi Sultan. It is Eliona, and who are they facing?
Hold on, I'm terrible with cardinal sides. On the north side, we have House Force. On the Ottomans, with opening with that early military school, very very standard, and on the northeast, I think yes, northeast, we have Laughing Fox as the Chinese.
I'll tell you what, Neri really knows his way around a compass, that's for sure. Nailed the northeast of Laughing Fox. Now, I mean, pretty standard build for China, going for the middle. Pretty standard build for Ottomans, going with the military school. And just like we foreshadowed a little bit before the game started, the Ottoman player is lining up across from the Delhi player. Now, this is something that we probably both know a decent amount in this matchup. And this is a matchup that actually you helped me with in a 1v1 setting when I was trying to learn Ottomans and you played Delhi against me. So we both know it's quite the Ottoman favor.
Yeah, it is super Ottoman favored unless you can secure a lot of map control early on as Delhi, but it's really rough because of this military Dark Age aggression. But overall, if the Delhi manages to get a critical amount of scholars and archers, they can take on the Ottomans fairly easily. Because with a large amount of archers, you can just focus down the matter or the imams if they decide to go for that point instead. And after that, your scholars are so tanky and provide so much healing that it can swing quite heavily into the Delhi's favor. But again, it's very rough.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And a lot of times the Ottoman player, when getting into that feudal age, will usually for their first vizier point go more for the meter, and then maybe imams afterward before getting military school upgrades like getting an extra one or anything like that. But those imams, yeah, they have that little bit of religious power that the Delhi thought they had a monopoly in feudal age. But taking a look on the other side, we have a Chinese versus Malian 1v1 essentially, and Orc will be going up with the Mansa Quarry. Now this is now the popular landmark for the Malians because we're not necessarily beelining towards the Farimba garrison anymore. So shed some light on some of the earlier the earlier season 4 Malian changes. We're doing more warrior scouts, sofas, that kind of stuff. Have you seen a lot of success in that?
Yeah, now with the thankfully when the thankfully nerf Faring Garrison, we see a lot more feudal play from the Malians and not just Castle Rush. Usually, people open up with their stables to get their scouts into warrior scouts and harass whatever they can, and then just go into sofas and any sort of infantry with it. And against the Chinese, especially, they can secure a lot of map control really fast because the Chinese want to stay back and not do anything. And looking at Fox build, he decided to go with the Imperial Academy first instead of the Barbican. So once Orc is in feudal and he throws on the stable and get the warrior scouts out, it's going to be impossible for Fox to secure map control for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, those warrior scouts that you alluded to, a little bit more powerful than your average scout, obviously, and I think a little bit of that just comes from the regeneration. They're able to regenerate, I think it's 2 health per second, correct?
Yeah, it's super ridiculous. They got buff in the latest patch.
Yeah.
It went from 1 health per second to 2 health per second, and it's very noticeable. You can't really kill warrior scouts. You have to chase them around with horsemen all around the map, or catch them off guard with some spears and archers. So they're very hard to kill, very annoying units.
Yeah, and especially because of the speed. I mean, the horseman ends up getting one of their spears in, and then by the time they catch up again, sometimes the Warrior Scout heal up to full health like it didn't happen, and the Warrior Scout upgrade just got completed for Orc with a mill right next to his starting town center. But now that the Warrior Scout mark is in, he will be able to deal with the scouts of Laughing Fox. However, he has a decent amount of scouts at his own disposal, and as I'm highlighting the mill, he did get professional scouts. And as you can see, those Chinese scouts getting those deer, trying to beat the Malians at their own game. What do you think about this?
I think it's an interesting because you know the Malian is going to go for the professional scout strategy, so Fox is trying to get the maximum value out of his own deer as fast as he can before the Malians just overwhelm him with the scouts. So interesting strategy. I think he's going to get like at most 7, maybe 8 deer, and then you're just going to be too many warrior scouts to deal with.
Yeah,
Unless
I mean,
Orc,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
unless Orc decides to not keep an eye on the other deer, which is happening right now, and Fox is just happily taking it away.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as long as he can get 2 of his home patches and bring them back to his base, I kind of think this is a win for Laughing Fox. It's a very interesting map Jousting Fields has, and how many deer are here in a 1v1. There's 6 different deer patches, so the Malian pick, now that you're going professional scouts into professional scouts, is a really good pick on Jousting Fields. I didn't realize how many deer patches there are. Now Laughing Fox and Orc getting a little bit of a skirmish with some Chinese horsemen, and Orc's warrior scouts, good micro, none of them end up dying, get it pulled away. But I do want to take a little bit of a break from the professional scouts talk, get up to Housed Horse and Eliona. Now Eliona has went for the Tower of Victory. Housed Horse, of course, with the twin minaret and getting his production buildings around his blacksmith like all good Ottoman players do. And it looks like he is just sticking around that middle sacred site, making sure Delhi does not get near it.
Yeah, currently, Horse has way more military, so Liliana needs to chill for a little bit, mass up military and a couple more scholars. Although he's completely off goal, he's not making any more scholars. Interesting. I've seen this play recently too, in which players just completely say, I'm not getting any scholars, I'm just pumping out units and try to outmatch the Ottomans. It works sometimes, but it's fairly risky.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of gets to a point of necessity, doesn't it? I mean, the Ottomans are always going to be able to outproduce you very well, even though Delhi has efficient production. And we're going to see the first little skirmish come in. I know Housed Horse has a little bit of everything, some rock, paper, and some scissors, some spearmen, archers, and Sipahi, respectfully. Looks like, based on what is going on with Eliona, I only see an archer mass, pretty decent archer mass, and I do see a couple horsemen now just starting to get some spearmen out of that barrack, so he will be getting a 1-1-1 build much like the Ottomans do. And I think Eliona's kind of falling into the trap because the Ottomans, they do the 1-1-1 build, they just do it that much better.
Yeah, on the other side of the map, we see a bunch of cavalry just clashing against each other. Spears being picked up, dropped down, and so fast getting into the mix. Now some spearmen. It's just a bunch of horses onto each other. It's quite amusing.
Yeah, I kind of like Laughing Fox now. I kind of like what Laughing Fox did. He has a couple of spearmen in this mix, so some warrior scouts, and I think one Sofa is going down. But Orc added his own hardened Donzo, a little bit better than your average spearman. And Orc is going to take this fight against Laughing Fox. All scouts, horsemen, and spearmen alike of the Chinese variety end up going down because of that.
Fox did manage to secure all of his deer, so that's quite a win for him. Yeah, the last one about to be picked up. Oh, there we go. And yeah, that really screws up with the Malian plan, because you really need those extra gears to get you to castle. On the other side, we see a big clash onto the sacred side, archers onto archers, horsemen onto Sipahis, and Leona manages to stay out on top and secures the middle ground. Now, where is that scholar?
Yeah, big difference
comes.
in this fight. Let me see where that scholar is. There he is. He'll get there eventually with his big walking stick / staff. But I do see a difference out of these players. Housed Horse, no upgrades of the blacksmith variety. The archers do have the range damage upgrades, so they're going to be able to hit those Sapahi pretty hard. And as you can see, the archer sniped one and almost sniped the second one. Housed Horse has to back up again.
Yep. Leona staying up on that deli play, getting all the upgrades, has the +1 damage and defense for range, and the melee is about halfway done. Now capturing the sacred site, this is really good. And even if it's only just one sacred site, it's enough economy for you to be able to keep up with the ultimate.
Yeah, exactly. Just having that little bit of gold is really going to help him out. Now, Sapahi clashing with Horsemen, trying to get an encircle around some of these archers, not quite doing it, however. Only one spearman out for the deli. The Ottoman archers are going to be able to pick him off. Metter in the back, playing the sound of music and how powerful that is for the Ottoman Empire. But the deli archer ball, relatively untouched, maybe about 3 or 4 end up going down. Took a decent amount of Housed Horse's army out because of that. And Eliona's going to be able to maintain the sacred site just a little bit. Now, at the same time, because Laughing Fox was able to get that professional scouts and want to highlight these Chinese imperial officials, you think those scholars are good at healing things magically. The IOs just spawn resources out of thin air and have been doing so with the deer. Able to go up to Castle Age, going to go up with the Imperial Clock Tower, or the Astronomical Clock Tower, excuse me.
Yeah, this is a very bold castle timing, because you're doing it against the Malian, and Malian are really good at massing units, and you basically only have map control up until the middle of the map. The Barbican did come down just recently, which secured him the foothold that he needed to be able to put down this astronomical clock tower. I still think it's a bit too early though, because if Orc realizes this, he knows that Fox was not on Sang Dynasty until very, very recently, so that Barbican just dropped down and the Castle Age timing just came in, so he knows that there's no way Fox has a big military, and he's going to try to capitalize on that by sending a bunch of sofas to the backside. However, Fox already has a spear ready to meet them.
And although Laughing Fox trying to get a little raid going on Orc, and I see it on the western side, his Delhi teammate, or his Ottoman teammate, excuse me, happens to be in a little bit of trouble. Just a little bit of archers left against Delhi archers. The Tower of Victory helping out just a little bit, and unbeknownst to how we initially foreshadowed it, the Ottoman player is actually backed up into his own base. Now on the other side of the jousting fields, we have raids going on opposite sides. Delhi, or the Chinese player, trying to burn down some of these Malian houses before reinforcements arrive. And I think these sofas might have attempted to get a couple worker kills, but have to get chased off as well.
Yep, they did manage to snatch a kill or two, but there were just too many spears to stay around. Now we do see the Grand Fulani Coral by Orc. This is a landmark that has been gaining popularity recently because firing back just got nerfed to the ground. But this landmark is actually pretty good. When you have it fully set up, it's equivalent to around 20 villagers of food. So you can pretty much have an entire economy with no villagers harvesting food, just with the Grand Fulani Coral. It does take a while to get going, but when it does, it's pretty strong. Now we see more clash between the Ottoman and the Delhi. Oh, Spahi's running into the spear, and that's not what you want to do. And now there's enough horsemen and archers to be able to overwhelm the Ottoman player. There are even more reinforcements around the map, just circling, trying to go for that pocket eagle of deer. There's horses already, and a couple of spears and archers also going in there. However, the main fight is being lost by the lane and has to retreat.
Yeah, the Ottomans Housed Horse with an interesting pick on the Metter, adding ranged defense against a lot of the, essentially high archer composition of Eliona. So that really worked out for him. Trying to get that raid on the north side, as you mentioned before, and he will have to back up a Housed Horse, putting an outpost there as he should be. Now Delhi trying to reinforce a little bit, continuing in feudal age this battle is between both the Ottomans and the Delhi, and Ottomans, I think they have a way to break out if they're able to keep that meta alive and really take this fight head on.
Yeah, this is going to stay in feudal for a while. On the other side, we have castle. So this is going to be really a race against the clock of which side kills the other first. Because once you kill your opponent, you can start helping your ally, and it gets really, really tough in a 2 versus 1. Even if you can provide some resources and safety for your companion that just died.
Yeah, I mean these 1v1s essentially are exponentially magnified because if you lose your 1v1, you lost your 2v2 essentially, right? So meta going down for the Ottoman player, going to make it a little difficult. Horseman with a little bit of flank on the western side by Eliona, going to be able to get a circlement around the Ottoman Archer Mass, and the Ottoman Archer Mass has to continue to back up. Delhi backing up as well, knowing that they do not have enough troops, but continuing to get that sacred site holding. Now in the south side, we have a decent composition from Laughing Fox. I'm seeing crossbowmen, spearmen, and some veteran horsemen. On the other side, for the Malian players, some Donzos, some veteran archers, and some Sofas with the imported armor. It took a while to get there, but man, when that armor is on there, these Sofas are brutal.
Yeah, they're very, very scary. They're very, very tanky and hard to take down. Now we see Fox starting to go for the chop through because his ally has been in such dire need for the past like 5 minutes. So he's trying to get through to send some troops in it and help House Horse grab a foothold and maybe push back the Delhi. However, when you do this, oh, Wololo, nothing comes out of it. However, when you do this, and if you do send troops to the other side, then you're signaling your 1v1 opponent to just attack you, because you're sending part of your army to the other side of the map. And getting back takes a while, because there's only going to be that small possibility.
Oh yeah, you're exactly right. Basically, when you have your other teammate who's not doing well, it's essentially a chink in the armor that they're going to try to exploit as best as he can. So now for Laughing Fox, he's going to have to put the backpack on a little bit, try to carry, and if he takes a really good Malian fight here against these troops, and he's got seat superiority with some Nest of Bees coming in the back. Let's see if he can take this fight very well. Crossbowman going to do a good job against those Sofas, and it looks like some Palace Guard in here as well. Not any kind of anti-armor for the Malians, so those Palace Guards are actually going to stay alive for a decent amount. Sofa's trying to get a flank around the eastern side, trying to take down this Nest of Bees, but I think it'll get one more hive worth of shots on that area. Now this was disastrous for Laughing Fox. Not only did he have to win this fight, but he had to win it rather convincingly in order to get his teammates some help over there on the north side. And I think this was kind of a stalemate on both sides. They both had to back up, and it wasn't that fight that Laughing Fox needed.
Yeah, it's kind of a stalemate, but as Orc, you secure map control. Now you can grab the last 2 relics on the map. And by the way, Leona at some point did manage to get castle. I didn't catch that, so now it's going to be really rough for House Wars whenever those castle upgrades come through. It's just going to be almost impossible to stop the Delhi onslaught of units.
Yeah, and these, I mean, it will take a little bit for these upgrades to actually come in for Delhi, but did go castle. I do want to take a real quick, actually went for a House of Learning instead of Compound of the Defender, rather interesting, but there are a couple men-at-arms for the Delhi player, for Eliona, that are just soaking up all of this archer fire, and the archers in the back for Delhi, relatively untouched, going to be able to take their pot shots at the archers and end up getting them down. And House Horse actually taps out because of that.
And because your teammate dies, you have to surrender to it, because there's no way you're going to hold that 2v1. So well played by Orc and Ilonia. Eliona.
Playing as the Ottomans, we have House Horse in the south as his teammate, playing as the Delhi Sultanate. It is Laughing Fox. And who are they playing against, Neri?
Why can't you just say left side? On the east side, we have Eliona playing as the Holy Roman Empire, and on the north side, we have Orc playing as the English.
Yes.
Now, what we're seeing is a typical um, Ottoman opener with the military school, and it looks like Orc is just gonna go straight to feudal, no dark aggression. So yeah, pretty standard so far for every player. We see even standard even opener for the Delhi. Everything, nothing out of the ordinary so far.
Yeah, I was really. I mean, we maybe because we hyped it up a little bit, and this is a little bit of recency bias, but I was really expecting a barracks to come out from Orc, and I think now that there's no Dark Age aggression from Orc, do you think his teammate is going to suffer because of it?
Um, I don't think so. Just because of the spawns, maybe they planned around the spawns because I know you can kind of or force. I'm not quite sure. You can, depending on where you are on the lobby, you can predict where you're going to spawn. So maybe Orc knew his direct opponent was going to be Horse, and because of that, you don't really need to do anything as an English player because you can defend with your villagers if they go for you, and if they decide to go for your teammate, it's just so far away that Spearman is going to be very late.
Yeah, and that exactly like you said, being all the way across the map, and now that they've scouted each other, they kind of know. And looking at House Horse's waypoint, sending it into his different zip code all the way across the other side of the pit, trying to go for the HRE. Now the HRE player microing his prelate, Eliona, microing his prelate very well, spreading the word of their Lord Jesus Christ around all of those villagers, and he is the first one to drop his feudal age landmark, the Akka Chapel, all the way in the back and gonna make that wood line on the back side of the pit. What do you think about this placement?
That's very greedy. That's as almost as greedy as you can get with an Akan Chapel. It's not even close to your town center range. So if Laughing Fox and Orc decide to be very aggressive with cavalry, that Akan Chapel is going to be completely useless.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And I think Delhi, although they don't have necessarily the best matchup against HRE, if HRE decides to continue to be greedy and House Horse's scout does actually see where this Akan Chapel goes all the way in the back, maybe they decide to do a little bit of aggression that way, and Orc on the north side going up with the Council Hall and actually has 5 villagers on stone on the northeast side of his base, so probably second town center coming out from Orc.
Yeah, Orc is going for a very standard English. It's just like, nope, I'm playing single player for a while. Goodbye.
Yep, English
Uh,
do that so well. They just wall up and they're like, yeah, we'll see you in 20, bud, when I'm in Imperial Age. Housed Horse on the west side, Twin Minaret, as all Ottoman players do. The Laughing Fox on the south side, actually going with Dome of the Faith instead of Tower of Victory. What do you think about Dome of the Faith in this particular game?
um, not quite sure if I agree with that because you need to. If you get to castle, you are in trouble. This is a game that you have to try to end in feudal against your opponent because it's English and HRE. The longer the game goes, the worse and worse it gets for you. I mean, it's good for the Ottoman. The Ottoman gets really good in castle and not so good in Imperial, but they're still pretty strong. But again, comparing your civs against their civ, you really want to end this in feudal.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just what you're playing on the opposite side with English and HRE, even both of them by themselves, they are imperial powerhouses. So I agree with you. You kind of got to get to a point where that part of the game never happens. Spearman from Mr. Housed Horse over here, just making it a little bit difficult for these Aachen villagers trying to use that drop off as the Aachen chapel, and that prelate over there getting his megaphone, broadcasting his prayers all over that tile radius, as you can see some of those gold villagers getting inspired as well. Now House Horse up with his twin minaret. I'm going to see if there's any kind of feudal aggression. I'm looking around his base. He has 0 villagers on gold right now, adding his blacksmith, adding an archery range, so he's going for it.
Yeah, he is turning on the heat. He's like starting to set up his production and then just gonna go because there's no villagers on gold, like you said. Although you should leave at least 2 so you can get your upgrades, your wheelbarrow, your offensive upgrades, your siege engineering, maybe a couple of maybe your wood upgrades also really important so you can get more rams and more archers out. S- But still, this is like I'm going to set up all my production first, and then I'm going to worry about everything else. So, yeah, very very aggressive from House Horse.
Yeah, I mean,
On
this
the
is
other
one of
side,
the things from the Ottoman. I just want to interject just for a second. The Ottomans really struggle in that early feudal age to get enough wood to do these things. So not only is he getting enough for the archer range, but getting enough for the archers. So that could have been why he pulled villagers off of gold. But I agree, those upgrades are going to be very important, especially with the HRE trying to defend themselves in feudal, having a barracks, a couple stables. So he's gonna try to defend himself in the feudal age here.
yeah, this is this is interesting because the exact opposite of what I said was going to happen is what is happening right now. The English is just going full turtle mode, full boom, like he just dropped second TC and it's English, so it's not really easy to kill. You have your cancel hall for emergency longbows, and not just adding a barracks. And you don't need that many troops as English because of network of castles. While in the other side, we have the HRE just panicking and adding all production and like having only two villagers on gold just to keep up men at arms and maybe a couple of upgrades. So yeah, this is quite funny. Although we do see that Orc did give Leona most of his sheep, so HRE is going to be fine for a while. Although they're not inspired, that's a lot of villagers in free.
Yeah, they will be able to hang out a little bit trying to get the sheep. Now, Fox and Housed Horse are really focused on this Akka Chapel placement, which we foreshadowed a little bit in the beginning. A little bit of a horseman raid from the Delhi Sultanate. Laughing Fox trying to get some worker kills down. And it looks like he has got a lot of injured and bleeding villagers out here, but none of them actually officially dead. Housed Horse trying to create a little bit of a reinforcement entity with him, adding a meter, adding the sound of music to the Ottomans, and having some spearmen and some archers with him. Now, seeing this feudal aggression from both players simultaneously makes me think of choreography or synchronized swimming. Having both people really in tune with each other, making sure that you're getting the counters for the individual and the other player that you're playing against. It's very difficult to micro with yourself, let alone with another player doing it with you.
Yeah, this is a very, very sharp timing. On the other side, we see Orc just starting to rally in longbows, which is not going to do that well because this is primarily horsemen and archers. So the longbows are not going to be too useful without a front line. On the other side, we do see Aliona doing a little bit of a raid onto Laughing Fox, causing some idle time and getting them off of wood. But I don't think it's going to be enough for now. Orc starting to pick up reinforcement. Maybe losing scout. No, keep the scout alive, but he's picking off some archers, some reinforcements. So very, very good. Again, they're taxing Team Devil's multitask right now.
Yeah, and having Orc kind of make that flank over there on the northwest side made it so a couple of those archers end up getting picked off. The issue is with both the Delhi and the Ottomans, they're going to struggle a little bit against these early men-at-arms, and as we see this fight coming in, Horsemen trying to get some damage on them, but those men-at-arms just way too tanky with their 3 melee armor. And Horsemen only producing 9 damage, the archers just tickling them essentially with marshmallows. This is a very difficult unit to kill for both of these players in Feudal.
Yeah, and now the longbow flank coming in, that's also going to make it even harder for them. With you have the men-at-arms and horsemen that take so long to kill, and then you have the longbows behind them just shooting away. Just they are the primary DPS. They are the scary part of this army, but you cannot ignore all those men-at-arms and horsemen.
No, and because of that, Laughing Fox's horsemen pretty much get eaten up. Housed Horse has to retreat by himself. The longbows are trying to put a nice big arrow into one of those Metter bongos, but it ends up staying alive around the middle of the map. And Orc is still out for blood. He's going to continue to kite this Ottoman player, trying to make sure that he ends up going all the way back into his base. So for these guys, they're continuing to make a little bit of feudal units. We have some men-at-arms coming out from Eliona and a horseman or two as well. But now that they fended off the initial attack and they made sure that feudal aggression, that snowball, didn't end up getting exponentially worse, now for them, I feel like they can kind of go up.
Yeah, they could, but it's still a little bit risky. You're still trying to get value from the second TC from Orc. And the Ottoman, they can just still pump in units, so you'd never know if you're truly safe against these two thieves because they can pump up so many units so fast. Like you can see right now, they Fox has so many horsemen on the right side of the field. Like he even ran out of sheep of how many horsemen he's trying to pump out, and had to run all the way to the berries, getting his economy very explosive. At any point, Ileana decides to try to go for a raid. It's gonna catch a lot of villagers. Now we see the interesting thing. Fox is the one that's trying to go into castle right now. He's shifted a lot of villagers into hall and starting to bank up quite a lot of food.
Yeah, they went into a feudal aggression. I think they kind of noticed that it didn't work, and I see House Taurus a little bit on the west side adding palisade walls to his side, making that aggression have to be forced throughout the east side of the map, this third little valley, essentially, of the pit. And the only player that is over here is Eliona he's got some outposts, he has some men-at-arms and some horsemen. The Ottoman player going to try to help him, and they're really going to want to get this sacred site on the eastern side. And now that that sacred site just about halfway from getting complete, I want to make a shout out to Valdemar for the raid. What's up, everybody? We are doing a 2v2 finals. Some great players in our higher bracket right now. This is game 2 with a 1-0 lead for Eliona and Orc playing House Horse and Laughing Fox. And I'm going to introduce you guys no further. Big fight coming out for both players. Orcs longbowmen happen to get there in time, going to be able to take out a lot of the spearmen for the Ottomans, and this Delhi and Ottoman wombo combo has to back up.
Yeah, this is a bit of an interesting timing by them because like they were trying to pick up while this fight is going on. There's a bunch of longbowmen. They are so scary in this amount of numbers. Like you just need your front line, which is Eliana right now, just stand there and create enough space for all these longbows just mow everything down. Like look at them. Like army size, they're considerably smaller, but there are so many longbows that this army is deceptively stronger.
And I think a little bit of this issue is, again, not being able to deal with men-at-arms very well in feudal for both these civs, because there were a lot of horsemen for Laughing Fox, and I would have loved those horsemen to get an encirclement around those English longbowmen, but they have to make a front line for these Ottoman troops. The Ottoman troops trying to get a snipe on a lot of Orcs' spearmen, but it looks like it takes a while for them to get down. Laughing Fox finally able to get to those longbowmen, but chooses to back up instead. Honestly, House Taurus and Laughing Fox is doing a pretty decent job at holding their ground. I thought this was going to be a rather convincing defeat for them, but they're still staying alive.
Yeah, absolutely, you're absolutely right. I would have loved to see the horsemen also wrapping around, but at the same time, they had a bit of an issue because English had like 6 spears just hanging on the back, and those 6 spears is just enough to be able to like take all this amount of horsemen plus the longbows. Like look, we're going to see here, maybe, yeah, just a couple of spears just deal so much damage against these horsemen.
Yeah. And that's all it takes, just 5 or 6. I mean, House Horse does have enough archers to try to snipe them out, but English adding in some early men-at-arms as well, and that makes it so tricky, especially for, I can speak from personal experience, when you're trying to micro and hit spearmen, but you are hitting men-at-arms instead and not doing anything. Now, there is one player that is going to Castle Age, and that is House Horse for the Ottomans going with the MIA, so maybe having that tech advantage is going to help him out. And as soon as I say that, HRE also going up with the Regnitz Cathedral. God, I love caster mode where it just tells you, you know?
Yeah, you have to be like eyes glued on the menu. You have to see what's happening. Yeah. Oriona also going out with the Regnitz Cathedral, and they have access to a lot of relics. This is the good thing about HRE in team games. There are so many relics that you can always snatch at least 3. Usually you get like 4 or 5 if your teammate helps you. And once you get that many relics as HRE, you're so happy.
Yeah, and I mean, now that they have a decent amount of map control, especially around this eastern side, I don't know if they did this intentionally, but the eastern side being a very good place for relics. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3 relics around that east side, so if they're able to continue to get that map control, that'll really help them out. Now, Eliona with the raid on the south side, some of those HRE horsemen trying to do something, but there are a lot of Delhi Horsemen trying to take down this raid, and they probably will do so eventually. Now, English player on the north side going up with the White Tower because of that second town center that they had before. So, those veteran longbowmen, in the amount of mass, I think I could see probably over 30, maybe 40, 41 longbows to be exact. Them being veteran status will be a buzzsaw.
Now, what I would love to see, that's something I've never seen, but I would love to see, is Orc just dropping a monastery and just ferrying relics to Leona. Just grabbing them, helping them grab the relics, and just throwing them right next to the Regni Cathedral or somewhere in their base. Just to do that a little bit faster, but Leona so far has been doing a great job at getting ready. As soon as Castle Age hit, grab one of the most aggressive relics and just secure them, and now just grab a second one and put it inside an outpost and generating that free gold.
Yeah, that would be a good heads-up team play idea. Because there are a couple of relics on that western side that he could use a prelate to get over. We saw the HRE prelate get its first religious artifact and plopped it in one of those outposts, as HRE is good at doing. There's going to be, I would say, about 6 good religious artifacts that the HRE player can pick up. And I think when you get all those relics, you're kind of done for. Now, veteran longbowman research came in for Orc. Laughing Fox, continues to stay in the feudal age, at least for a couple more seconds, is going up with House of Learning, but he's getting raided at the same time by those big, chunky HRE men-at-arms.
Yeah, I think you need combat of the defender. Like, it's not even a question. You need combat of the defender. You need keeps because you're going to die to English and HRE in Castle. Like, Dali has a winning matchup against English, but unless English gets Castle, because then they get those very tanky men-at-arms. Plus the Castle longbows are so strong.
Yeah.
And we see a little bit of a skirmish, like we're seeing right here. There's just so many units that are just stronger than yours, hitting you.
Yeah, now huge issue for the HRE and the English. Not a lot of ranged armor upgrades. Housed horses sprinkling in a little bit of crossbows that are going to help him out. Also, did have 3 metters in that fight that got sniped down just about immediately, and I'm pretty sure they were providing a little bit of ranged defense. Now they're not going to be able to do that, but Housed horse having a little bit of siege superiority with the MIA has a mangonel. Let's see if it's a good hit on one of those longbowmen. And it looks like that mangonel, the sound of it fired, but no rocks actually hit. And we got pump faked.
Yep, that's the power of longbows. Like, you can just stay just outside of range while you're still hitting the enemy army. Because you're faster than the mangonel, you can just kite backwards, and mangonel will never be able to hit your longbow. So you have to force the engagement with something else, with like horsemen or knights or whatever. Like it's happening right now. Now the mangonel can move up and hit those longbows, and not a great shot, but it's something at least.
Yeah, the horsemen getting some longbows, which is a good idea, and you got to be thinking, where is a lot of Orc's units? Where is a lot of Eliona's units? Well, Orc had his reinforcements going to the north side of Housed Horse's base, and we have some raids going on with some horsemen. Also, just a little bit of APM taxing, making sure maybe some units become out of place in this fight, and the mangonel ended up becoming out of place. Horseman got a raid, reduced it to shrapnel, and now Laughing Fox has a lot of longbowmen just essentially raining their wood-filled hell all over Laughing Fox's base. This does not look good for this team.
Yeah, this is what we were talking before the game once started. Eventually, this is going to happen because you have 2 very 1v1s players. Like we said, like they are very good at defending and attacking, harassing everything at the same time. While the exclusive team players are very good at executing one sharp attack as a team. But once you start getting into these later parts of the game, they are not so good at defending and harassing at the same time, or staying good, or how to defend by themselves. So if they get attacked by 2 players or just by 1 player, they start to panic and their APM just getting taxed, while the 1v1 player just know what to do. They just know how to shift click, move around, and when and how to mine.
Yeah, honestly,
situation, because they've been there.
And I mean, this APM getting taxed, I feel like you again hit the nail on the head there, because there are so many battles going on. I wish I had more than one camera to show you it a little bit of a play-by-play, but Laughing Fox's base has continued to funnel in troops of the opposing team. We have a lot of longbowmen going down with a horseman encirclement on by Laughing Fox, doing so appropriately. A lot of crossbowmen in here with Laughing Fox, and House Horse trying to get some of these men-at-arms down, but on the other side, he's got a lot of troops over trying to help Laughing Fox. Orton knows that. He's sending just about all his reinforcements. As you can see, this little Congo line of English troops matriculating their way from east to west, trying to get some villager kills, and House Horse hit the oh shit button, getting those Janissaries out with the Vizier point, which they do have good base damage. It'll help them out against men-at-arms, but Longbowmen are just going to shred them apart.
Yeah, and Laughing Fox surrenders, and House Horse should be soon to surrender. It was very well played by both teams like that.